In a world filled with conflict, in a universe comprised of differences, there's one thing that absolutely everything shares in common. We all exist. Including two guys named Jack and Michael, who like to chat about that very thing over a good cup of coffee. Let's pay them a visit, shall we?
Existence Brewing.
Thinking they really need to do like a metal version of this, you know. Anyway, maybe Liza Minnelli could sing it. Oh,
Liza Minnelli. Hey. Did I walk in on your playlist or what?
Yeah. So years ago, Pat Boone tried to keep his career going by doing a metal album, and I was just thinking maybe Liza Minnelli could try the same thing and use this song, a version of this song, that's metalized.
I can hear it already. It's one of my favorite things. Back in the day when we were purchasing CDs like crazy, I ran across a CD that I thought was AC/DC, and it was called Pickin' on AC/DC. And I was like, wow, AC/DC, this is like a greatest hits album. And like, it's only $10, which back then it was like, wow, I mean, this is like a $20 CD. So I bought it, and it was Thunderstruck on the banjo. Picking on AC/DC.
There you go. Yeah. Well, you know, you've hit it big when they are playing your hits in banjo, I suppose. So
yeah, I
never was a big
one.
AC/DC fan, I have to admit. Two bands of legend in the hard rock, classic rock world that I never really cared for. Kiss and AC/DC. I'm a keyboard guy, so the real just guitar-driven stuff with the, you know, the Brian Johnson, just it grates on me. Plus, when I was doing public address for sports years ago, Thunderstruck, speaking of which, got played. It was the warm-up song for some of the teams that I just get so sick of. And as a classic rock disc jockey, I get to hear at least pieces of that stuff all day long. I try to cover my ears when it comes to the stuff that I want to, you know, that I like. Because, like, I don't want to overhear the song. But,
too late.
Yeah. Did you ever I suppose you're essentially old enough. Maybe you're not old enough to remember singles or vinyl 45s. Now, my brother and sister had 45s. I was more of a cassette single kind of person. Mm-hmm. Did you ever wear either of those out in your life? I have one that I wore out. I have a tape that I literally wore out. Just literally wore it out. It wasn't that it broke. Everybody says, oh, what, it break? No, it didn't broke. Like, literally the analog information on it became
stripped,
faulty. Yeah, after literally running over the tape head that many times, just playing it and then back and play it again and again and again.
So what was the tape?
It was the Final Countdown from Europe.
Ooh, and it was a single.
Yeah, I had the single and I had the album, but why I needed both, I still don't know. And I think that I recall the reason I needed both is because I wanted to protect the integrity of my actual album, my tape, because I was backing up the first song. It's side A, song 1. So you just keep backing it up, and it was like, or maybe I was getting upset because like a little sliver of song 2, which I think is Danger on the track, if I'm not. It's been a while now since I've listened to that whole album, but I don't know.
Man, you're taking me back now. I was a huge fan of the mixtape.
That's really pretty much all I listen to this day, although they're not tapes. I'm still playing CDRs in my car. But that new car that I got, as I've said, it's just this bastion of technology, and I really don't like it. So, and that CD player that I have that plugs into the USB port is not very good. It skips songs, and it's been driving me crazy ever since I bought the car. So I don't know. I like that car. It runs fine. I'm about to test it in the snow we're supposed to get. The forecast has gone, as we were just talking about, it's gone from 8 inches to 5 inches to 2 inches. So it's, it's kind of like an online date. It's like a guy you meet on, Tinder. It sounds like to me it goes from 8 inches to 2 in less than a day. So it's like, well, I was actually a little embellishment there or something.
And what is the meteorological term that they're using for this one?
Oh, this
cyclone.
This hype weather terminology I absolutely cannot stand it, because they're calling it a bomb cyclone. And yet we live in the Pacific Northwest. We do not have cyclones. Cyclones, typhoons, and hurricanes are all the same thing.
Right.
It's just what part of the world are you in as to what they're called. This is not a fucking hurricane. This is not a typhoon. This is not a cyclone. It's not a bomb cyclone. It's not a cyclone of any kind. It's just a strong upper level low that would push in off a frontal boundary from the Pacific coast.
But I guess that doesn't sound exciting enough.
It's just a storm. Oh God. I cannot stand these
atmospheric
supercharged
weather, or atmospheric river is my favorite one.
These apocalyptic terms for these weather events as they push in. It's just where that got started and how it continues to propagate. I have no idea.
The Weather Channel.
I've been writing. Weather forecasters used to actually forecast the weather. I think that they actually the computers that they used were only good for just so much detail. And then it was up to the human brain attached to their being to actually create the forecast and say, based on the information that the computers and the telemetry and all of the other stuff that they've spit out to us, this is what we think. And the forecasts were much more accurate. Now it's all plugged in to a computer algorithm from start to finish, and the forecasts are far less accurate. And I mean vastly less accurate, because I have to do the weather every day as a radio personality. And I remember when I first got into the business, years ago, 25 years ago, and I had a woman call me up on a Monday morning who was absolutely just distraught and pissed off at yours truly, just mad as hell at Jack Hansen. And I couldn't figure out why. And she said, "You ruined my wedding. My wedding was last weekend, and you said it was going to be sunny, and it rained. You ruined my wedding." And I was just like, whoa. I'm not God over here. I don't make the weather. I can't just place my order like it's, but that just shows you where the public's pulse is at as far as radio audiences. You said it was going to be this. Well, we get that information from somewhere else. I'm not doing the forecasting, believe it or not. It's pretty amazing. So, but I've had more than one day here in, the last year alone where, it's one thing if it's like, well, they said it was going to be 68 and it was 62. All right, they missed by 6 degrees, but it was still in the 60s. It's one thing if they said partly sunny and it was partly cloudy. It's one thing if they said it was going to be mostly sunny and it was mostly cloudy. That's even that's pretty wrong, but it's still, but I'm talking about we've gotten a half an inch of rain and it was supposed to be partly sunny. No rain in the forecast at all. So I don't know how you miss that hard on a forecast with all those toys at your disposal. And I think it's because the toys are doing the forecasting, not them. It's the only thing I can surmise. But anyway.
The bomb cyclone. It's kind of like a Sharknado version of the meteorological world.
I hate hype. I can't stand it because it's like part of that world that I just am completely vehemently opposed to. It's just hype tends to follow things around where people just want to make a lot of money off of absolutely nothing.
Well, speaking of that, they name hurricanes after women. Why couldn't they name storms after men?
Well, they name hurricanes after men too.
Oh, do they?
It's both genders.
Oh,
It's just the really savage ones that are women that are the ones named after females. Of
Why
course.
is it always females? You could be like, oh, here comes Storm and Norman. He's coming in from the east.
No, they name hurricanes after both genders. In fact, I think they try to deliberately mix it up too, but it just so happens that most of the more punchy storms are named after women. Hurricane Andrew is an exception, of course. That was a very strong storm to hit the coast of Florida back in the 80s. Mini swirls came out of that one. They didn't know what mini swirls were until Andrew came onto the scene. So this time of the year, it's winter. It's becoming winter now. It's not officially winter. I'm a solstice and equinox guy, so to me, it's never officially a season until the Earth tells us so. It actually turns enough times that it's supposed to be that season. But as far as the weather's concerned, we're slipping into winter weather now up here. And so that means that my hairdryer is coming out more and more. I thought I would share one of those numerous idiosyncrasies about Jack Hansen with the world today. He has been into his hairdryer since he was a little boy. Because when I was a little boy, my mom, have you ever seen those old school 60s hairdryers that were round and they looked like a tuffet? They looked like a poof, actually. And then they had the clear-ish sort of plastic tube that came out of them. And the ladies would dry their hair with them. I guess it was because it was the best design at the time. So she had one of those. It was in a case, a plastic case from like Avon or something. And when the weather didn't even need to get cold really for me to do this, as I recall, but I would just do this quite frequently. I'd just go get that hairdryer and pull it out. And as a little boy, I'd get under like the blanket and I'd turn the hairdryer on. And then I would hug the little tuffet part. And then the hose I'd stick in so it would get all warm and stuff in there. And I just lay there for, until Mom came and finally turned it off. She's okay, that's enough. It's run for long enough. She always used to just say, she said, it's my little spaceman, it's my little space boy because he likes the vibrations and the warmth. It reminds him of being like in the womb of his vehicle traveling across interstellar space and stuff.
There you go.
I just thought, oh, Mom. But now the more I think about it, it's like, yes, she's probably right. So I still do that to this day as a grown man. So I just got a new hairdryer and I'll get it out and actually like stick it under the covers and run it for a while. And you got to ventilate it, so it doesn't
you don't want to
pop the fuse.
or start a fire.
Yeah. But it's funny. I'm still drawn to that. And I run it in the bathroom constantly. It's like anytime I go in the bathroom, even if I'm just in there for a minute, I have to turn the hairdryer on. Because, I don't know, it's just a weird thing with me. I have to do it. So,
you like the hairdryer?
Women that have lived with me have all had to get used to that. They're just like, it's Jack running the hairdryer again and probably not drying his hair. It's just
I was going to say, so this has nothing to do with drying your hair or anything. This is just more of a use
I don't use a
hairdryer
hairdryer to dry my hair. I let my hair dry naturally. The hairdryer is just to run and listen to the vibration and enjoy the warmth. So
fascinating.
There. Yep. Now the world knows. There you go.
Fascinating.
Well, so speaking of things that are completely me, there's like a hiccup of downloads that need to be done
oh boy.
Today.
He's getting
so
backed
there's
up.
nothing. Well, there's nothing big on the list. There are some bigger things here, but it just seems like a lot of the latest ones are kind of these just small things that I wrote down. So I thought I would just share a few of those since I don't want to get too far behind in this.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
The big U is tapping me on the shoulder saying, kiddo, it's time to tell him a few things like we've shared together here. So one of the first ones here that I wrote down is, we going from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top? You tell me.
Let's go from the bottom to the top.
Okay, bottom to the top it is. So the first one then is, I have this written down. An atheist illusionist is like a dog dressed up like a dog.
That's great.
I'm not sure if that was, everything comes from the Akashic tree, as we talked about, I suppose, in my opinion, but that may have fallen from something a little further down from the crown, I guess, than some of the higher up stuff. But yeah, I think I was thinking about, because I'm not a big fan of magic or illusion. Like, I like real magic, the kind that actually happens, like the magic that occurs between two people when ... fill in the blanks, they make a connection, or, I like the magic that happens when a mother, carries a child to term and then sees it out into the world. And, all that stuff, the real, honest, it sounds just completely cloying and slippery, I know, but it's true. I really appreciate the miracles, the marvels of existence, but this fooling people, this, prestidigitation, this sleight of hand, all that stuff. I'm not a big fan of magicians per se, because I'm not into I'm sure as hell not going to pay to be fooled. Like, I always loved the part from, do you remember the part from My Cousin Vinny? Great movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we love that movie. When Ralph Macchio, who plays his nephew, I think, or something like that, is talking about, he's trying to talk up Vinny and his ability to be, you know, this lawyer that he's really not. But he said, you know, when they went to see the great Waldo or whoever it was, some magician, he was just like, you know, Vinny was all over him. He said, it's in his pocket, or he's palming it, or, you know, and you could picture that from his character in the movie.
Right.
I always loved that because I just thought I'd love to go to a show with this guy, because it's like the whole point is I just paid, and some of these, you know, highfalutin magicians that make elephants disappear and then do these crazy tricks, you know, they get $60-$70 a pop probably in Las Vegas, and it's bullshit. It's an act. There's no magic going on. Nothing is disappearing. Nothing is truly being telekinetically moved from one place to another.
But it's so captivating.
You know, it's not captivating. It's trickery. It's treachery. I'm not paying to be fooled. I pay plenty of taxes to be fooled every day. I don't need to pay the rest of my good money to pay for it on some kind of an entertainment basis. So anyway, just never been a huge fan of the magician's game. And so I think one day I was sitting around contemplating like magicians or illusionists and then atheists, and I just thought, you know, that's really kind of like a dog dressed up like a dog. If a magician is an atheist, then it's a dog dressed up like a dog. So
this reminds me of one of my favorite books, which is the George Carlin Napalm and Silly Putty, or the Brain Droppings, just like these one-liners that are great.
Yeah, we could call it a brain dropping. So today, these aren't downloads, these are droppings. I like that. We'll steal from George here.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind. All right, so the second one that I have written down is, it starts with a question. And so I guess I could just ask you for the sake of setting it up. It's cheesy, but we can do it. So I'll just say, hey, Michael, do you know what complicates, well, I have things here. So, but do you know what complicates things?
Tell me, Jack.
You say no, tell me, Jack, and I say nothing, everything, and sex. Because it is true, isn't it? I mean, nothing is basically you taking it way too seriously, right? I mean, people say, well, it's complicated. No, you're just taking it too seriously. You're pushing it to a plateau where there's really nothing complicated about this at all, except for your desire to blow it up into something that it's not. So, therefore, you know what complicates things? Nothing. Now, do you know what complicates things? Everything complicates things, because it's true, just at the same time, just where absolutely nothing can complicate anything, everything can complicate things at the same time. It's the smallest things. It's like the butterfly effect, right? Where the butterfly flaps its wings in South America and creates a tidal wave across the world somewhere. Exactly. So you see, the little butterfly complicated things for some folks halfway around the world because it caused the tidal wave. And then sex, I mean, the ultimate complicator.
That could be like a Woody Allen quote.
Yeah, wow, thank you. I appreciate that.
That's a good one, yeah. So George Carlin said in his book, When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops?
I have that book.
All you have to know about men and women are crazy, men are stupid, and the main reason women are crazy is because men are stupid.
Well, he was always more of a feminist than anything, so of course he leaves it with the guys. And I don't blame him. But I think the thing, I don't know, you know, we've never... Maybe that's a launching pad for just a brief discussion about sex in general, because I think that's a Jack Hansen thing he likes to put out into the world, because I think to me, this is what I would tell. I don't have any kids, but if I had them and they came to me for advice, God forbid, or it came to the talk, or, you know, those things you're supposed to do with them, I think I would probably give like the most epic, different talk than anybody ever has before, because to me, people immediately go astray on the subject of sex, no matter how much of it they've had or how old they are, how much experience they have garnered with it. Because I think we all have to remember going into it that we've forgotten sex has one basic function. Its true function is to create a human vessel. That's it. That is the function of the act, period. Undeniably simple. There is no, well, no, it's designed to show intimacy. No. Now you're getting off into the weeds. The act itself is absolutely positively singular in design. It is for the procreation of a human vessel. Now, because we are these sentient beings with emotions and with the ability to, again, complicate things or apply meaning to mechanical functions of the human design, which we often do. We flip each other the bird and suddenly the guns come out and, there's a road rage incident, same kind of thing. So here we go with the sex. Now it's like, well, I'm feeling all this passion and I want to express myself. Okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that. I think that's wonderful. But we can never forget that the anchor point in human terms is always going to be what you're doing with this is not what it's designed for if you're not specifically looking to procreate a human vessel. You are, in fact, in a way, misusing this intended purpose. Yeah. And we all have done that. It's not a carnival ride. It's not designed for you to feel good. And I don't care what you say about lobsters or dolphins or all this shit they've done tests on to where, they have orgasms. Fine. It doesn't matter. It's still for the same purpose. It's not designed for you to get off on. It's designed to procreate a human vessel. So I just feel like we would be so much healthier if we would drill that into our children's heads before they went out into the world to explore this very difficult and ambiguous subject for themselves, is just remember what you are doing is probably for, inherently at least, the wrong reason. Because you're not going to be looking to procreate a human vessel more than likely the first, 7th, 18th, and 12,000th time you have sex. It's probably just going to happen as a side effect, as an end result. And that is unfortunate. I know I was an unplanned baby, and there's a lot of us mistakes running around. And that's something I often try to tell people, because some people take that personally. I've run into people that have said, well, I was an accident. My parents didn't mean to have me. I was like, well, I was an accident too, but make no mistake, there are no accidents. You absolutely belong here.
Absolutely. That's what I was just going to say. And by the way, P.S., who tells their children that they were an accident? I mean...
But people carry that guilt around for real, Michael. They really do. I've met them. They've said, well, I feel really ashamed of how I got here. Well, I mean, how'd you get here? Well, my parents hooked up in the back of a Camaro Z28 after they'd already had my 2 other brothers and my sister, and I was born 14 years apart. It's like, that's fantastic. You belong here. You hopped into the situation you needed to karmically. Why are you beating yourself up for this? Do you really want to be a planned pregnancy? I mean, what's the fucking difference? The miracle is the same. You're here. But when it comes to the act of sex, I'm just saying, as you move into it, I think just the awareness of, okay, what I'm about to do is not for the intended purpose. Mm-hmm. That gives me license then to be very creative with how it does apply to me, because I think that's a wonderful, malleable ability, I suppose, that we have when it comes to things like that. But it also, therefore, creates the responsibility of making sure that that intended purpose is, in fact, and yes, Catholics everywhere are about to, come through the computer and want to choke me, but that if you're not looking to have a child and it matters to you that you don't, do something. There are lots of ways to prevent that in the world today. Make sure that you take those steps. Just to me, a world without birth control is no world that I want to live in, because there's plenty of mistakes running around already. And again, it's not that they're mistakes that people didn't want to have them. It's just the circumstances that some children can be born into. I truly believe, and I'm I'm conflicting with my own viewpoint here, but just from a hard perspective, we've all seen them. Mm-hmm. Like the mom in Target that has 5 and a 6th on the way, and she's obviously impoverished, and they're all crying and they're all swearing, and it's a wretched situation. It's just chaos, and you just feel sorry for all of them. And it's just not necessary, because to me, you don't have to look too deep to say none of those people that are here, none of those souls that were brought into the experience, again, every circumstance is created for a reason. And so there's plenty of karma to pay back in every circumstance. I trust the miracle, but at the same time, from a more pragmatic stance, there's no reason for this, because what has created it is being unrooted in the responsibility of what I'm doing is not, is not what it's intended for. And I'm not taking any precautions to preclude that from happening. I'm using my body like a carnival ride. And to me, there's no excuse for that. You don't do that because you have a responsibility, because or you should know that these things can happen. But so there you go. There's my take on that.
I love it.
Do you though? I mean, that's the thing.
I just love how these are literally like the brain droppings.
Well, that's actually a bigger subject I've been wanting to bring up for some time, but I think it just felt like the right time. So
I love it.
We'll talk about it again some more at another time, because I will tell you this too. I have learned a phenomenal amount about my own sexuality, I suppose you could say, or just, my own feelings about the act of sex within a monogamous relationship have changed dramatically in the last 2 years alone. So you never stop learning about those things. I feel like any relationship that you have, anytime that you're embarking on, anything in life, whether it's by yourself or whether it's a dual project, like, that would be, if you ever find yourself not learning, I think that's when you really have to stop and say, does this need to continue? Is this deserving of my energy and time? Because you should always be learning something from just about everything, I would think. Either that or maybe you're not paying enough attention. But anyway, the last one here, I'll move on to it. The last one I wrote down that I have here, it says, take nothing for granted, lest ye be granted nothing. And maybe somebody already said that, but I found it on the tree just the same, and I decided I'd pull it off. So
run it by me one more time.
Take nothing for granted, lest ye be granted nothing. It's basically a fancy way of saying if you aren't appreciative of what you are asking for or what you already have, then you won't receive it. And that is so true of people who have insatiable appetites for material possessions, for example. They already have the largest collection of Spider-Man comics in the world, and yet they don't have that one really super rare one where Doc Ock was found in the bathroom playing with himself with one of his many metal tentacles, and that's the one they want, and it's all about what I don't have, and there's no appreciation for all of these things that I already do have. And I probably wrote this down with a bit of self-reflection in mind, because I find myself, being the little collector crab that I am, sort of being guilty of that at times, and it pisses me off because I want to be a better person. So again, take nothing for granted, lest ye be granted nothing. And it doesn't mean that you won't get the things materially. That's what I'm saying. Is there, it's a deeper statement than that. It's not, well, if you're not thankful for what you already have, then you don't get any more stuff. No, you'll get the stuff. You just won't care. Anything that all of the desire to have it and all the desire to possess it will go away instantly. It won't matter to you once you have it. And what a hollow exercise that is in perpetuity. What an absolute nightmare that would be to live. I want. I get. I'm not satisfied. And I also think that there's a ring of social truth in that, sort of in ubiquity. I think that Western civilization is very much platformed on that mentality. I didn't get what I wanted for Christmas last year. Did you ever hear that? So
yeah.
Well, did you get anything? Well, yeah, I got this and I got that. So it's not like you got nothing, kiddo. You just didn't get what you wanted. And yet you're not appreciative at all of the things that you actually did get. And so it's no wonder maybe, A, that you didn't get what you want, and then B, when you finally do get what you want, you're not probably even going to want that. And so it's a cautionary idiom, I guess. It's a little axiom that I made up about hey, every time that you see yourself seeking one of these, for me, it's music. I collect this music and I love clothes. And so I'm always going after it. So every time that you find one of these little jewels and I can't live without it and I got to figure out a way, and I'll charge it this month or I'll pay it off this, you're playing that game.
Mm-hmm.
Try to take inventory of all the crap that you are already sitting on top of. And if you can remember an ounce of how much you wanted whatever it was even last week that came in the mail this week, that might be a good thing for you. Let's just deal with what we've got before we worry too much about all the things that we don't. And because I just feel like that's a human instinct that needs to be sated in a way that's healthier than material possessions in a capitalist system, because it's detrimental to our actual going. To our progressive, to something that would be progressive. To me, it sets you back a pace when you play that game. You can get in a hamster wheel. And so what you desire to have fulfilled in life should be something other than most of the shit I think that we crave.
It's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Well, and I would say that the same goes for, it's like I was listening to Dr. Gupta. We play his segment, Sanjay Gupta. I have to listen to him every day. It's not that I dislike him, but it's just like so much of it's just, I don't know, it just seems like corporateered blubbering to me.
Cornflakes.
Yeah, but he's talking about some study, and my jaw dropped to the floor because, he has that voice that's like this, and it's very deliberate, like a doctor telling you, now, Lucy, you can't stick anything else up there because this is what can happen. So he's got that condescending doctor way about him anyway.
Yeah.
And he's a radio doctor, which makes him kind of even more putrefying. But he comes on for his little segment, and he literally says, you may have heard the saying that money can't buy happiness. Well, a recent study says that might not be true. And I'm just like, oh my God. Now they're just now they're dropping the bomb cyclone on us. They're just coming right out and saying it. Money buys happiness.
From the same people who said that money did not buy happiness comes true happiness, and you too can get it for only 4 easy payments of $49.99.
Yeah. So what he got into was some kind of a crosshatch of the brain and how endorphin activity works and it's released and all these things. And his takeaway for his audience from this was, it's not money that can buy happiness per se, but it's the experiences that money can buy. Because he's recommending the purchase of experiential things, vacations and, trips to Disneyland and memories, that cost money to create in a capitalist system rather than the acquisition of material goods. That's his big thing. But see, to me, that is such a phony, baloney, transparent sales pitch. That's such a, well, now, why would you want to get something that just sits there and rusts and why wouldn't you want to take the family on this amazing vacation? There's nothing like creating lasting memories. You can get these out anytime. They'll never wear out. And yet they cost the same amount of money or more in order to produce. And again, the lesson here should be that no matter how wretched no matter how wretched the part of the city that you live in is, the ability to step outside your front door and look up in the night sky and see and appreciate the miracle of the stars that are twinkling back at you should be enough, regardless of how much money you have to spend to get away from wherever that's happening. There are miracles happening all around you.
Yeah. And
there is pleasure in existence all around you. So you don't need to go to the Magic Kingdom and spend $38 on a, bag of French fries from Mickey Mouse in order to feel happy. And But just the same, you don't need to buy a Bentley to be happy.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, I think in our society, that's kind of the fast food mentality. It's, okay, we need to be happy. We need to find happiness this summer, and we need to have lots of pictures so that we can add it to the Christmas card. Well, what better way to do it than an entry level to Disneyland, which, of course, is going to cost you, is like tickets now $300 a person, $400 a person, or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
going
crazy.
on 52 years of never having been to Disneyland, and I couldn't be more proud of it.
I heard that stat last summer, and I was just like, that's nuts. But I will say that, like, the older I have gotten, one of the reasons why I have discovered a new passion for hiking and for camping is I made a comment to somebody a few months ago when I was getting a new tent or something set up. And I said, it's amazing to me how little you really can survive off of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, like, being able to just immerse yourself, disconnect yourself from all these things and all this baggage that you carry on along with you. And granted, you know, a house is a very nice thing to have on a cold winter's day. And, you know, I do enjoy the creature comforts of Western society. However, it is so refreshing to get alone in nature with just your mind and being able to just enjoy and soak in that experience.
Well, yeah, and this is where I think, you know, Sanjay failed his listeners, quite honestly, was the message should not have been, keep spending all that money, just spend it on different stuff or different shit, which you don't really need. And, you know, look, when I go on vacation, you know, we, you know, try to do it up. We're not super fancy, but, you know, we like to get the jacuzzi rooms and, you know, try to stay at nicer places. But we also only take a couple of small driving vacations every year. You know, we might take 3 trips that keep us out of town for 4, maybe 5 days at the most. So it isn't as though as we're jet setting all over the world and taking these extravagant cruises and, you know, all of that. It's just there's a personal standard that has been set for luxury and the expectations of these creature comforts that it's just, you know, I would even say that if these times of appreciation of what you don't need to spend any money on would be appendments rather than amendments in your holiday budget, that would be just as fine. It's fine. Take your Disney World frickin' vacation and go spend, you know, $68 on a hamburger with Mickey Mouse ears on the bun and, you know, be happy about it. Okay, whatever, if that, you know. But as long as you're mixing in, at least mix in a couple of those trips out your front door where you can, or at least give back something that isn't requiring so much, you know, stimulation, external stimulation for you to feel like you've gotten anything out of life. I mean, I'm telling you, I know some kids who are not satisfied with anything unless it is defined as being stimulating in an external way, and unless it costs buku bucks to go do. I mean, their parents couldn't have it worse because you can't just take the kids to go feed the ducks at the park. They're not satisfied because the ducks they don't look like Willy Wonka and they don't do tricks and they're not attached to some magic world where there's rides that you stand in line for 3 hours to get on that last for, you know, 5 minutes if you're lucky. And I don't understand. I hate theme parks, quite honestly, because I'm not comfortable with all the people and I don't know. I've just never been a fan of stuff like that. I don't feel like I need that much external stimulation. Like I said, there are miracles everywhere, and there is plenty of entertainment everywhere. I go feed the marmots at the park. You know, I remember I started doing that a few years ago, and the number of people that would stop and just gawk at me in awe. Oh, what are you doing? And I just said, these little creatures right here, they're called marmots. They're like groundhogs, and they're hungry, and so I feed them good, nutritious carrots. I don't feed them Doritos, by the way. If you want to get in on this, please feed them like food that would be, you know, feed them
you
carrots.
Wouldn't want the marmots to get
they love
have
carrots.
a heart attack or anything.
Well, because I've seen people do that. It's just like, I applaud the effort, but at the same time, you shouldn't feed them Fritos. You know, they want actual food. That's not real food. But I just couldn't believe how many people, and we're not talking about young people. We're not talking about kids who are 12, 14. There were plenty of those too, but that's more understandable growing up, especially in this tech world where the only place they've ever seen a groundhog before is on a screen or in an anime cartoon or something like that. They don't even think they're real. I'm talking about grown men and women who would stop and say, what are you doing feeding these things? It's just like, it's pleasurable. I'm convening with nature in the best possible way that I can close to my home. These little critters live at the park. I come down with a bag of carrots and we hang out for a while. I feed them and, yes, now the marmot people, the real conservationist types, the real zoological types will say, you're ruining, them. They're getting used to your food source. And I'm like, yeah, fuck that. I need some time with nature's beings. And these things are close to me and I'm going to do it. So I'm sorry if I'm doing them harm, but I feel like feeding them a few carrots and hanging out with them for a while does me a hell of a lot of good. And it's not too bad for them either. But I just couldn't believe how many people would never have even considered doing that. And that usually is the contemplation when they'll stop and talk to me for a while or want to know what I'm doing, is it's as though I've invented the wheel and they're a troglodyte who's just going, things roll on this. You could get somewhere. It's like, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And I don't know any better than anybody else necessarily, but I'm always surprised. I really am always surprised how surprised people are about something so simple. And so that's what I would recommend. I really would recommend finding things close to you in your daily routine. Like I said, it's outside our front doors every day. But how often do we even bother to look at it?
Yeah.
Whether it's the daisy that just popped up in the yard or whether it's the stars above at night or, what it is. Because we're too busy inside glaring at one screen or another of prepackaged entertainment. And although that's fine, there's too much of it and it isn't necessary. And I'm not Mr. Outdoors either. I'm not Mr. Nature guy. I'm not constantly out there hiking and biking and backpacking and, filming granola bar commercials. And, I'm as glued to my laptop as anybody, I suppose. But there's at least that switch in my brain that says after just so long, Jack, it's time to close the clamshell and go do something that would put you in a place to just be re-immersed in where you really come from. And then you can go back to your cyber connections.
We're going to get you out on the trail this summer, Jack.
Oh, we are? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just don't leave me there.
I won't. And I'll take my bear spray in case we run across any critters that... Did I tell you the story about the bear spray? Did I tell you the story about the bear spray?
I don't know that we've heard the bear spray story.
Okay.
No, tell us the bear spray story.
So I took the kids out on a camp out with my brother's kids and a guy from high school and his children. So we had, children were outnumbering the adults like 2-1. And we were out on our hike. We'd set up camp and one of the kids was like, "Hey, what is that can on your backpack?" I said, "Oh, it's bear spray." And they were like, "Oh, really? Bear spray? How does it work?" I said, "Oh, you guys want to see?" So, I just did a little test and just showed them, this is how it works. And the bear will not want to be anywhere near us at that point. Well, of course, just as I spray the mist and it starts wafting into the great outdoors, my brother turns the corner with his son and my nephew, and they immediately walk through what is the mist of spray.
Oh, God.
And, of course, some of the kids had a reaction to it, and we ended up pouring water on their faces, and we felt like we were like protesters at the WTO or something. And we're like pouring water on these kids' face to try and get it out of their eyes.
Oh, boy. Well, they got a real demonstration then.
It is very potent. Yes, they did.
So explain this to me. When did mace become bear spray? Because the colloquial term for the shit that's in this little can that's going to fend off an attacker has become bear spray suddenly. And yet in inner city terms, or in most terms, if a human attacker, it's not going to be a bear. Obviously, it's going to be a mugger, robber, rapist, whatever.
I think it's the size of the can, really, and the bear spray. A can of bear spray will set you back, I want to say, $50.
Holy cow! Really?
Yeah, $50. And typically, a good mace will set you back maybe $25. So it's the size of the can.
I see. Well, yeah, I don't have a bear spray story because I don't have any bear spray. I don't have any mace.
I know.
Maybe I should.
And
I should carry.
It's one of those things where I just don't like hiking with firearms, and I would much prefer not to have a firearm around a bunch of kids in a camp setting. And so I chose to arm myself with bear spray. Well, in the way of doing that, I ended up macing or bear spraying my nephew.
Well, kids got to learn what it's like to get maced. You could have literally, I don't want to say disparaging things about your nephew, but your nephew quite possibly, let's say, could have been on the path to being a miscreant. Maybe he was actually going to be a star or something like that. And you literally just turned him around because he's like, I don't want to get sprayed with that shit.
Yeah.
And so he's never going to commit a crime against humanity in his life.
He's never going to be a protester at the WTO convention. Never.
Oh, don't get me started on the WTO. Boy, how they tried, but it just, Occupy Wall Street is just the only thing that's going to occupy Wall Street for the time being is you know what. But never fear, all systems break down, and so at some point it will too.
You were going to say that the only thing that occupies Wall Street is the Benjamins, right?
Yeah, how come we haven't had that TV show yet? The Benjamins.
The Benjamins.
Who'd be on that one?
Oh man, who would star in the Benjamins? I'm terrible with celebrity names.
I am too. I don't know any of them today. I don't know any modern celebrities at all. I keep hearing about these people, and it's just like, should I know this person? Like, I don't.
That is the true sign of you're getting a lot older when you start watching some of these like clips from award shows, and you're like, who are these people?
Yeah, I've never heard of them before. The famous birthday thing that I do, the rundown for radio in the morning, has all of these like cyber people, has all of these what do you call them? These social media influencers. I've never heard of it. I've never heard of a single one of them before. I have no clue, and yet it'll pop up like, oh yeah, Raspberry Johnson. This young YouTuber. I'm just like, never heard of the guy. Next.
Yeah, he's a social media influencer. I didn't even know who Jake Paul was until he boxed Mike Tyson.
I
didn't know.
Heard about that, but I don't know I still don't really know, I guess, who Jake Paul is. I just knew who Mike Tyson was.
Yeah, I haven't subscribed to him. But he's $50 million more wealthy, so I guess after taxes.
Did he win the fight?
No, he lost, but they both walked away with money. I believe that Mike Tyson walked away with $20 million and Jake Paul walked away with $50 million. And that was before there was even an outcome.
I see. Okay, well, good for them. I hope they spend it wisely. I hope that they are happy beating the holy fuck out of each other for profit. To me, that's a real tough thing to pay back karmically.
Yeah, but, I know. We were watching,
and that's the thing.
One of the highlights, and I told my wife, I said, I just don't understand boxing. I just don't understand it. I don't boxing. Find the connection to boxing.
I've never understood boxing, but I understand ultimate fighting less. And that is my big issue with Joe Rogan, aside from the fact that he's just a fucking shill. And he's a coward, too, because he's not about to, when they come to him and say, hey, look, take down all those interviews you did with Stephen Greer. It's bad for business, will you? He doesn't stand up to them and say, you know what, I'm willing to lose my Maserati and my home in Malibu to make sure that we're promulgating the right thing here and giving everybody an opportunity. No, I will absolutely take it down, sirs. I'll squelch, anything you want for the sake of a couple of things that I don't want to give up. But, my real problem has always been the ultimate fighting, because there's this little interest, it seems, in all of these paranormal subjects and all of these pseudoscientific subjects. And he's, largely been credited with really helping to propagate interest in, extraterrestrials and ancient sites, and all this kind of stuff. And yet all the while, he's a full-on supporter of beating the holy fuck out of somebody until they're bloody in a ring for profit, with a bloodthirsty audience in attendance, both virtually and in person. I'm sorry. I don't have any respect for you, sir. Good night.
I love it. It's like the Willy Wonka.
Good day, sir.
Good day, sir. Now get out of my chocolate factory.
Can you imagine Joe Rogan on Willy? Joe Rogan is one of the kids in Willy Wonka, the original, the good one, not the other one that they did. And he's about to go into the factory, and Gene Wilder just stops him and says, "I don't think so, dear." It's like, there must be a mistake. You're not getting into my factory.
Which of the kids do you think would Joe Rogan have been the parent of?
Oh, good Lord. I don't know, and I know this has been passed around like the duchy in the song, but that whole thing at the beginning of the original Willy Wonka movie, where they're all the adults are sleeping together in Charlie's house, it's got to raise a few eyebrows, if you're,
because it was it wasn't a halfway house, but it was like an infirmary, right?
Well, the thing is that you could argue that because of the indigence that they were all experiencing, there was a real shortfall of beds in the house. And yet that didn't seem to be the case. They all just seemed to enjoy sleeping in the same bed together, all slipped together. And I don't really
cabbage soup.
Borscht is, coming off again. So I don't mean to incite a riot with this or anything. Even as a child, I was kind of looking up at my mom, tugging her leg, like, "Mom, they're all in bed together." She says, "Watch the movie, dear. Just, we'll talk about it later." But because I'm just like, why are they all?
So yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that. They were running like a hospice center out of their house for Grandpa Joe, and
like a family hospice. So they were all family.
Yeah, they were all family.
So we were told.
Yeah, and whatever happened to Charlie's father?
Charlie's father, it was his was it grandfather?
Grandpa Joe. Grandpa Joe.
Grandpa Joe. So Grandpa was the one that was real close to him.
Yeah, and the grandpas were
I think
involved.
Great.
Absolutely, but the grandfathers were involved in his life, but there was no mention ever, I think, in the movie. I don't know. I'd have to look at the book. Maybe there's a reference to what happened to his father, but I don't know.
I don't remember the book. I know it was read to us in grade school, but I have obviously tucked it away somewhere without knowledge of the real intricacies. Anyway, it just, as you mentioned, Charlie, we bring the subject up. I can't ever help but think about the beginning of that movie where it's like, just really not sure that I'm digging all these people in long Ebenezer Scrooge pajamas together in bed. It's sort of weird to me.
So then how does Grandpa Joe he's a bedridden individual who looks like he's about one day from the grave, and then all of a sudden the mom is like, "Yeah, you can go with Charlie to the chocolate factory." And he just jumps out of bed, and he's just like walking out the door.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that shows you is like the real investment they all had in Charlie's outside life, right? He was literally the only one who left the house every day, apparently, to do anything. And yet nobody wanted to go with him on this. Kids everywhere are literally cheating, lying, doing whatever they can to get a golden ticket. He pops one just because he's Charlie, and he's like the Ned Flanders of this universe as a boy. And nobody wants to rush to his side to go. It's just like, "Oh, Charlie, why don't you take Uncle Joe?" We don't certainly want to do it. God knows, So there's a lot of things sort of wrong with the human dynamics in that film, but that's why we love it, I suppose. And we got to love Gene Wilder. So
Gene Wilder's the best in that movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm bored, I'll get online and look up the Willy Wonka Gene Wilder memes. As soon as this episode's done, you need to check it. Some of the things that come up with as he's got those sparkly little eyes, and I love the memes.
He was a great Willy Wonka. Well, I can guarantee you this. If Joe Rogan had gone on the tour of Willy Wonka's factory, Slugworth would have gotten his gobstopper. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I think about it, I see him showing up with Tyson, Just like, why don't you just cut all the crap, Wonka? Where's your chocolate? We just want your chocolate now. We want the chocolate. I don't care about the stupid chocolate. I just want your chocolate now. You got a chocolate ear? I want to buy the chocolate ear.
Oh, you know what? I will say, though, that I saw a clip of Mike Tyson at the very end of his fight, and they were asking, is this going to put all of the haters to rest? He just said, you know what? This was a fight against myself. I don't care what those other people have to say. I thought that was pretty amazing.
I might have actually done the pay-per-view cost to watch him beat himself up, but watching him beat the shit out of another guy again is no, I have no interest. Not that I've ever watched it before, but
every day a little harder. Look out, boy, you're on your own.
I think this song has a great bumper music score. Probably one of the best we've ever had so far on the podcast.
Yeah, we picked good today.
Yeah, you're a radio guy. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I do, for sure.
I would say one of the shows that has the best bumper music is Coast to Coast AM.
Well, yeah, Art Bell picked some good ones.
Oh, yeah. Crazy stuff. In fact, I think there's a whole YouTube channel that is devoted to bumper music of Coast to Coast AM. Check it out, kids.
All right. Will do.
Until we meet again, Mr. Hansen.
Sounds good, Mr. Elliott.
Well, it looks like Jack and Michael have finished up their latest chat about all things existence. But if anything they said got your own existence brewing, be sure and catch their other talks at existencebrewing.com and drop them an email to share your thoughts using contact@existencebrewing.com.
Existence Brewing.